Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, I wanted to talk about some potential breakout players for the 2020 to 21 NBA season, because this happens every single year, right? There are young players, there are guys that some are out of nowhere, some that we expect that have really, really good seasons and establish themselves as great NBA players. And this is a list of players that I think could be those types of guys for this upcoming season. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. But quickly, I talked about this in the first video today. Wanted to mention it here as well. If you're looking forward to NBA season preview content for individual teams, you can find that on my Instagram and on my TikTok. Those links will be down in the description in a link tree. You can also see them on screen here probably. And I just wanted to move those individual team season previews to shorter length content on those platforms. You can go check those out. I'll still be making a full East and West season preview where I talk about where I have each team in the standings, predictions for conference finals, and of course a champion as well. But I wanted to just kind of move those things to shorter form content on different platforms. You can check those out down in the description, as I said. With those things said, typical stuff, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Let's go and get into the list. So first on the list for me is one that I'm really, really excited about, and it's Coby White of the Chicago Bulls. Now, this is a dangerous one for me, if I'm completely honest, because there are signs that Coby White's end to the year last year was a bit of what we like to call the Josh Jackson effect on this channel. And that is just that a player, especially a young player, former top pick, gets a lot more opportunities later in the season against teams that are tanking, minutes that they wouldn't normally get because they're resting some of the other players or a guy's hurt or whatever, and they put up bigger stats and more minutes, and it makes you think that they're better than they are. And Coby White post All-Star break last year looked awesome. I mean, we're talking about like 24, 25 points per game in 10 games post All-Star break, 34 minutes per game, looked like a guy that was really taking a leap. Problem being there, Zach LaVine didn't play in 5 of those 10 games, and it's, the typical increased minutes, teams aren't as good type thing. But I still stand by the talent of Coby White. This is a guy that I've seen play in person going all the way back to his high school days. He's the all-time leading high school scorer in North Carolina basketball history, which is a big deal for me here, living in North Carolina. And even though he's a UNC guy, don't love UNC guys, I think Coby White is going to be a really, really good player. And I think this could be a year that he breaks out of it. The problem with that would be the fact that Chicago certainly has plenty of other options on the offensive end of the floor, namely Zach LaVine, namely guys like Lauri Markkanen, and all the other young guys that they need to feed on this roster to continue to grow and develop them. So from a statistical standpoint, I don't know if it's going to be a huge breakout for Coby White, but I think the Bulls are going to be more relevant, more successful than they've been in past years, and at least Coby White should be a more notable player, specifically within his own draft class. And with this fast pace as Chicago should play this year, given the talent that they have and the young talent that they have, maybe he'll still be able to put up a ton of points as well. Maybe LaVine gets moved at some point, or White just overtakes him as a perimeter guy. I don't know. There's other options here in which he could have an even bigger breakout than even I'm expecting, but I think he still deserves to be on this list. Next up now is a guy that I'm really excited about, and he's the forgotten player in his own draft class, and it's Marvin Bagley of the Sacramento Kings. And the only reason that we don't talk about Marvin Bagley is because he simply has not been able to stay on the floor. Injuries have continually been an issue for him, but I still think that if he is ever healthy, if he can ever get right and go back to the type of player that he was when he was drafted, he is an incredibly talented player. Those of you that watch every single one of my videos know this. I talk about Marvin Bagley probably more than I should, if I'm honest. But if we're making a list of breakout players, I think that he needs to be on it. I still think that he should be a full-time 5. He certainly has the size and the athleticism to make that work. He needs to continue to learn how to guard at that spot. And defense is really going to be his issue, either as a 4 or a 5. But him and De'Aaron Fox, I think, can create a really nice dynamic duo there in Sacramento. I don't know if that's the best franchise to project a breakout player on, because I don't think Luke Walton's a great coach. They're a bit dysfunctional as a team right now. You don't know if Buddy Hield is going to stay or you're going to go. But strictly, if you're looking from a talent perspective, guys that haven't lived up to that talent, but certainly have all the potential in the world, I don't see how Marvin Bagley doesn't make a list like this for a potential breakout player next year. Next up is another guy that I've talked about a handful of times, and it's Anfernee Simons of the Portland Trail Blazers. Another guy that I've seen play in person a couple of times, and I just think that, again, he has all the talent in the world, and I think he can be a really, really good dynamic bench guard for the Portland Trail Blazers. He's not going to be like taking over CJ McCollum's starting spot or anything, but from a talent perspective, this guy's got it all. He can shoot, he can create, he can facilitate, he can get to the rim. He's got great athleticism, and I think that it was a weird transition for him going from high school to post-grad to the NBA, having no college in there. And it's going to take him a little bit longer than other guys typically to really grow and develop into being a good guard. But I think this is probably going to be the year that it's going to happen for Anfernee Simons. I have relatively high hopes for Portland as a team in general. And of course, Dame and CJ are going to, and Yusuf Nurkic are going to be the primary guys here, but he can be a really, really good bench guard and is definitely a player to keep an eye on to put up some bigger stats than maybe you would think. Anfernee Simons is a guy you should definitely be, as I said, keeping an eye on as a potential breakout player this upcoming season. Next up is one that is a little bit weird because you could argue that he's already broken out, but I think he's in an even more interesting situation this season than he's been in the past, and it's Christian Wood now of the Houston Rockets. And I'm a little nervous for this one because the sample size isn't huge on what we saw Christian Wood do last year, and it's kind of weird when a guy goes from can't crack the rotation on a handful of teams to now being a 20-point per game scorer. But depending on what happens in Houston with James Harden and John Wall and whatever else is going to happen there, Christian Wood can put up some significant numbers in Houston and really show that he was worth the contract that he signed as a guy that can be an inside-out big, hopefully improves on the defensive end, has plenty of athleticism, and should be a really, really good player. Now, maybe it was a fluke. Maybe he isn't actually as good as he showed at times in Detroit, and he isn't going to be a breakout guy, but I think this is more so like a prove it type breakout than like a this guy's coming out of nowhere thing, but I still think he deserves to be on the list. Next up now is one that you guys had to know was going to be on the list, right? It's Michael Porter Jr. of the Denver Nuggets, a player that Denver's really going to be relying on this season. I mean, they lost Jeremy Grant, they lost a couple other guys in free agency. When you're looking at their depth, especially on the wing, it's limited. And Michael Porter Jr. is going to be the X factor for this team. He's going to be the guy that they're going to be expecting to step up, to make a big contribution on the wing now in his third season. And I think that he's going to do it. Now, is he going to be like an all-star? Is he going to be this crazy good wing? No, I don't think so. But in terms of him showing more legitimate signs of being a really good NBA player and a really good wing, I think that that's certainly going to happen for him this season. He's going to have the offensive stats to back it up. Denver's going to put up points, and he's going to be a significant part of that. Hopefully he improves on the defensive end because that's more of what this Nuggets team needs, as I talked about in a recent Nuggets video. But still, breakout players, if you're making a list of that, Michael Porter Jr. needs to be on it, and I hope that he does because he's certainly a talented player. I hope he lives up to that potential. I hope he gains the trust of the coaching staff by playing well on both ends of the floor. Michael Porter Jr. is definitely a guy to keep an eye on. Next up now is one that I think this is more wishful thinking for me. I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but it's Mo Bamba, the Orlando Magic, because I still think that there's talent there. He's got that inside-outside potential of a guy that can shoot and can defend the rim. Obviously, Vucevic is there in front of him in Orlando. It's going to be difficult for those two guys to play together. They knew that when they drafted them. So I don't know if he's ever going to live up to the talent, the promise that he has, but I guess it's at least possible. Like maybe Vucevic isn't as good or is injured or gets traded at some point, and Orlando decides to go with this youth movement and Mo Bamba gets more opportunities, because I think that's really going to be the only way we're ever going to know if he is going to be anything or anything significant, at least at any point in his NBA career. He has the talent to do it. He has a unique skill set, and hopefully he puts it together, becomes a breakout player this year, because I would really, really like to see that personally. Last up now, another one in kind of like a, not necessarily breakout, but more of like a prove it type situation, is OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby is a really good player. He's already proven that. He can defend, he can shoot, he can slash a little bit, worked on the playmaking a little bit. One of the better wing defenders in the league. We already know that about OG Anunoby. But if we're looking at ceiling raisers potentially for Toronto moving forward, I think OG Anunoby could potentially be one of those guys if he continues to develop the other parts of his game, as he's now looking for a new contract, by the way. If he can become a little bit more of like a driving kick threat, a little bit more of a creator, and become more than just a 3-and-D wing, and we know that Toronto has a history and is certainly a credible place to grow and develop other parts of your game, namely guys like Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby could surprise some people this year on a Toronto team that I think people generally think got worse. But if he is someone that can be part of a significant internal improvement there in Toronto, maybe they're better than people think that they will be, and he's better than they think that he was supposed to be, and he can really step up and improve his game and look for a potential big contract as well, as Toronto certainly has big free agency plans in that summer of 2021. So OG Anunoby is a player that I don't think is often thought of as like a breakout, high ceiling type guy, but he already does a lot of things well, and if he can do some things really, really well, then maybe he's potentially a breakout candidate for this upcoming NBA season. But that is my list. As always, I'm curious to see who you guys think are potential breakout players for this upcoming season. Let me know who you think those are down in the comment section below. And as I said in the beginning, be on the lookout for content on other platforms. Check out the link tree in the description, and you guys can check out all the different content that I'm putting out on all kinds of different platforms. Trying to be diligent about just giving you guys as much content as I can, like I said, in all those different places. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.